That's probably not making it
Yeah,
in.
what are the odds that gets cut? What are the odds that gets cut?
Yep. Anyways. What is the Sportscast? We the Sports Stuff Show, the Kings of Comedy. I'm Adam.
I'm Carter.
And I'm Cainon.
And let's get right into it. Updates for today. Totally put on here by Carter, but I'm rocking with it. He put... where's my congratulations from you guys? Yep. Thank you. I appreciate it.
That's probably not making it in.
Yeah, what are the odds that gets cut? What are the odds that gets cut?
Yep. Anyways, we are here, all three of us, back together. Last episode was just me and Cainon, and the episode before was me and Carter.
I was seeing Travis Scott.
Yep. How was that?
Dude, incredible. They were shooting fireworks inside and stuff. That was the best show I've ever been to. It was unbelievable.
I remember seeing on your story a ton of eagles, just playing like the eagle sound.
Yeah, this was a thing where Travis, after the album first dropped, he would play like random eagle noises over songs when he performed. And I'm like, yo, that's so cool. Adam made our Rush video, and I was trying to get him to put an eagle noise over the song. He's like, no, it's stupid. It's dumb. It's so cool. And he did it on almost every song, and it sounded great.
Bro, he like was spamming that thing. He was like, caw, caw. Like, it was bad.
He played it like 8 times in a row on Goosebumps. It was awesome.
Once we get someone behind the camera doing like the mixer board and like the sound pad, we're gonna put an eagle on there, and then every time Carter says something that's like wild, there's gonna go
Carter's hot
"Caw."
takes.
It's gonna be like, caw.
And then Bridges' hot takes.
No,
Womp womp.
dude, we all need like a signature sound. We need like a signature like sound bite just for all of us.
What would mine be?
I don't know. I don't even know what mine would be. The only one,
Beetlejuice spelling the word red.
LSDER. No, it's like the TikTok
That's so
audio where he's
random.
like, me? Nothing.
Yeah.
Just hanging
No, I love
around.
that one. Beetlejuice. Shout out Beetlejuice.
Man.
But anyway, college football.
So if you remember, we had our top 4 a couple weeks ago. And I just kind of wanted to look back at that. I don't know who wanted to start with that.
I'll start. Okay. Unfortunately, I had Ohio State as my 1. I thought they were going to beat Michigan.
Told you.
And yeah, I don't want to talk about that. That was unfortunate. I had Georgia 2. That's looking fine. And then my 3 was Florida State, which is looking fine, but Jordan Travis is not looking fine. So
You mean the part where his leg is in 2 pieces?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, well,
And
then I
didn't
had
look great.
Washington at 4. I mean, at the time, I don't regret that pick, but now looking at it, whatever, Ohio State lost, you can't, that's in my opinion, it was a 50-50 thing. And then I am now thinking Oregon is going to take that 4th spot. I think they're beating Washington, so I'm hopping on his bandwagon with that one. So it looks like he might be 4 for 4.
I've been on Oregon.
What's your 3 right now? Or what's your 4?
My original 4? Or
No,
my
your
4
current
now?
4.
My
Yeah.
current 4 now it's probably going to end up being... All right, a lot of stuff has to happen for this one, so bear with me on this one. I'm going to have Michigan at 1. My 2 would be... Wait, let me think. I just did this beforehand. I had, in no particular order, Michigan, Oregon, Alabama beating Georgia this week.
Dear.
Were you going to say that?
Yeah.
Alabama beating Georgia this week. And then that 4th spot has me sketched out because Florida State's playing good Louisville team. And then let's just say Florida
Ain't
State.
that good.
They're a good team.
They did just lose again, though.
That loss
To
killed them.
Kentucky.
Yeah, but I mean, they also have not their starting. They don't have Jordan Travis anymore.
Well,
that
creates an interesting situation where
Yeah.
Florida State goes 13-0 in conference champions. Can you really keep them out?
No, you can't. So my point is it would probably end up being Florida State, but like, how awesome would it be if Florida State lost, Washington lost, Georgia lost.
You're trying to put Ohio State back in.
Yeah.
Ohio State's not going to make it in if Alabama beats Georgia.
You think Georgia's going to take that 4th spot?
Georgia's in.
Yeah.
I just don't
Georgia is in no matter
I know.
what.
I just have never liked Georgia, to be fair, so I'm being a little bit
Whether
biased.
you like them or not, they're in.
A little bit biased. I know Michigan's no matter what, and they clinched it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Michigan pretty much clinched it.
And they play Iowa, so.
I mean, that's the. You think Georgia clinched it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? I think with the loss of Bama,
They're 12-0. If they lose to a top 10 team in the conference championship at 12-1, they're still in.
No, because Michigan has it, and then let's just say Oregon beats Washington. Oregon would hop in because they're Pac-12 champion. God for
Then
Oregon.
Bama, Georgia.
Florida State would hop in.
I
if
really
they win. You want instead of a one-loss Georgia team versus an undefeated Florida State team.
Georgia would beat that team by 80 points.
Yes, but if you're the AP
I
poll,
really, well, it's not even AP poll anymore, but I really do think they would keep Georgia over Florida State in that situation.
I think so too.
Florida State's been undefeated all year, and they still bumped them out of the top 4.
Okay,
Yeah.
They don't want them in the playoff, and they shouldn't.
I just don't. You can't punish a team for being undefeated. I understand, and you can't punish a team for your starting quarterback getting hurt and still going undefeated.
Sure, you can.
Why? They've done everything they could. Georgia,
They haven't.
That's Georgia's spot to lose.
They've
Georgia
beat
lost
one
it.
good team all year, really. LSU in the opening week. They have a weak schedule and no
They did-
quarterback.
Yes. Okay, I'll give you that. They did have a very weak schedule. You guys are
It's about
downplaying this Louisville team.
It's about the resume, and they don't have a top 4 resume at all. Even if they beat the crap out of Louisville.
I do see your point. I mean, you see an undefeated Liberty team is ranked 25 in the country
Right.
because they have no resume. So I understand your point, but they're a Power 5 conference team, undefeated. They have a few ranked wins. You can't not put them in there. Just like Cincinnati.
I think you can. I think Cincinnati proves why you can leave them out.
Yeah.
They were never competitive in that game. What was it, like 27-6? Something like that.
They're off. Desmond Ritter got. Actually,
Because they just
doesn't
weren't
surprise
a
me.
good enough team. They didn't play teams to prepare them for
I
the
know.
playoff.
I know. I just
But
can't.
Anyway, so
hate-
you're rocking. What are your 4?
Shoot. Let me remember.
You had
I had
Michigan, Georgia.
No, I didn't have Georgia.
Oh no, he had
I had Michigan, Oregon.
he had Oregon at 2.
Or in no particular order. I
Oh.
did not prepare beforehand for the actual order, but it'd be Michigan, Oregon, Bama, and then Ohio State. I'd want Ohio State. If Georgia loses this week, then Ohio State and Georgia have the same exact resume. It's
Georgia will
comes-
make it over Ohio State.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yes.
Especially with I mean, we talked about it beforehand. Like
And it's not the
previous-
same resume. 12-1 is better than 11-1.
yeah.
Okay. Fair point. Fair point on that one.
You can't leave Georgia out and then not put Florida
It's just
State
so
in.
annoying that-
If you in that scenario, if you take Georgia out, it has to be the undefeated team.
Because
Yeah.
I see in my eyes, like throughout watching this entire college football season, I see Ohio State and Michigan being the top 2 teams in the NCAA.
I disagree.
And
Me too.
Okay, you guys disagree, but I see those two being the top 2 teams in the NCAA. They played each other. Ohio State went to Michigan, competed in Michigan, and took it down to the final drive before that.
That's
pick,
also-
but
Before they lost to a team without a coach, right?
That's also a rivalry game, and rivalry games are typically always like very close. Like
I don't
we
know.
saw that-
Michigan beat the crap out of them the last 2
Yeah.
times.
I mean that's true.
yeah.
But
anyway,
it still has that like aspect where both teams have so much to gain and lose in
Yeah.
that.
well,
like,
yeah. I mean, Bama
spot.
Auburn was down
Yeah.
to the wire.
And Bama Auburn is typically normally like I mean Auburn isn't as great. Like they're not
Bama
on
owns
the
them.
level.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it was a close
It's
game.
always pretty close. I would say.
Besides that,
Like I mean
But-
the Iron Bowl is always so like competitive.
It's a good rivalry.
Mhm.
But into my top 4, I think before I had Michigan 1, Georgia 2, I had Oregon 3,
FSU 4.
FSU 4.
Because
I might just stick with it. I mean, I have Michigan as 1 still. I think if 3 beats 2,
I think you
they
put
sh- they
Florida
should be
State
1.
at 3 and then Oregon 4.
yeah,
I think.
there's that.
Either way. But yeah, I'm going to stick with Michigan at 1. I think that they're a top 3 team in the country with the top 2 resume for sure, and they just beat number 2, so I think that they should be at the 1 spot. Georgia, I'm going to stick. Georgia Bama's tough. I think I'm downplaying Georgia a little too much, so I'm going to stick with Georgia at 2. I think they beat Bama, and 13-0. They're probably the best built team in the country. They would probably beat Michigan head to head just in a vacuum, but you never know. Number 3, I'm gonna go with Oregon. I think that they beat the absolute crap out of UW this week because I think that Oregon has only gotten better since they played. UW has only looked worse. So I'm going to stick with Oregon at 3 at 12-1, Pac-12 champs. And then 4 is tough. Ohio State is a significantly better team than Florida State. I don't think anyone's disagreeing with that. But Ohio State at 11-1 with no conference championship versus Florida State 13-0 conference champions, which is likely. It's tough. I also think Texas is a better team than Florida State. Texas, with a win over Oklahoma State at 12-1, has a chance to slide in still. At the end of the day, I'm probably going to stick with Florida State. I don't think they should make it, but I think they will. So I'm going to go Michigan, Georgia, Oregon, Florida State. I do think, even with the loss, Oregon gets the edge over Florida State to be the 3.
And then going on to mine, I had something similar. The only one was the last spot. So I had Georgia at first, and then I had Michigan second, then I had Oregon third, and then I had Texas fourth. And that one shocked you guys with the fourth.
It's got a chance.
I did make fun of you at the time.
Yeah, you guys made fun of me for mine.
I still don't think they're making it.
I think, I mean, and
It's
I was
still
just kind of throwing
it's still a long shot,
lot
but they do have a
has
chance.
to happen.
Especially
a lot has to happen this week.
because I thought Florida State was going to lose a game earlier on, and they almost did.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to lose to Florida,
It was
and
close.
that was
That
a
was close,
close one. Especially
If Florida had any discipline whatsoever, they win that game, but they don't.
they're so wild, and
Oh, yeah.
that was I genuinely, even before they lost Jordan Travis, I thought Florida was going to squeak in just to squeak a win away just by the fact that it's a rivalry game. But it was so close.
It's tough to say, man. I really wonder how much the Cincinnati playoff appearance is sticking in the heads of the playoff committee, because I
Yeah.
think that's what happens if Florida State makes it.
Yeah, I think so too.
Especially if they're matched up
I
with
mean,
Georgia. Come on.
You're right, but the only difference is that Cincinnati's not a Power 5 school.
Right.
Florida State
But
is.
At least they were healthy.
Well, I think it's just kind of like a common argument of just strength of wins, where it's like,
They don't have a
You know,
resume.
yeah, it's very tough for,
I'll say this: 3-loss LSU. I think they beat Florida State by 25.
yeah. I mean, I think the only issue is
Maybe not 25, but they
we
beat 'em.
obviously know the top 4 system is kind of flawed in that sense, where
Oh, for
teams who
sure.
are playing way harder competition are getting downgraded just because they played harder teams, which is
Right.
not their fault. We're like a Cincinnati team who could just breeze through, all
Yeah.
their easy teams, gets into the playoffs. when
Like
they
I'm saying,
shouldn't.
like a middle of the table SEC team is beating most teams in the country.
Yeah, I think so
Yeah.
too. And especially we see it all the time in football where, sometimes people have no business winning games, but still win the games, i.e. the Jets. That's just how it is.
The Eagles?
Yeah, like the Jets against the Eagles. There's no way Zach Wilson should be winning that game.
Stuff happens.
But that's
MVP.
that's just what happens. For this sake, just for the sake of it, I'm gonna still rock with Texas in that 4th spot.
Dude, why not?
Do I think it's actually gonna happen realistically? No, but I'm gonna just predict it
think-
still. I mean,
All right, what do we think is the best way for Texas to get in?
I think
Bama
the best
can't-
way,
Bama
Bama
can't
has
win.
to lose.
Bama has to
Bama
lose.
has to lose.
So
Florida State has to lose.
Georgia and Michigan have to stay locked in.
I think
Florida State loss, and I think a UW win.
yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
So then you go
Oregon loss.
You go Georgia, Michigan, UW, Texas wins, Texas. If Florida State and Oregon both lose. That's not that crazy.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a tough thing. Is
That's really not that crazy, actually.
if hypothetically, because
Are we forgetting someone?
Ohio State.
those
I
are the main
really
ones that
want
are.
Ohio
If
State over.
I will
waddling
say,
around.
if Texas goes 12-1 with a Big 12 championship,
I know.
I think the committee gives them the edge
I
over
know,
Ohio
and
State.
it's
Which, by the way, all this does is highlight how stupid divisions are in college football. So dumb. I mean, you have the Big Ten split into these 2 divisions where the top 2 teams every single year are in the same division, and then one of them plays Iowa or
Yeah.
Minnesota or something like that. And which, by the way, this is a crazy thing to say. Iowa is a terrible call on a game-winning punt return away from this game being a playoff chance for them.
Mhm.
They're 10-2.
Who did they lose to? I'm tweaking.
I don't even remember who it was against. I think it was against Minnesota where Cooper DeJean or whatever didn't call for a fair catch, housed it, and they said he called for a fair catch and they lost. they could be
They
11
got a
and
good
1.
defense.
They could be 11 and 1 right now, going into the Big Ten championship with playoff hope, which is crazy to
So
think
let's
about.
just
Yeah.
say this happens because Michigan's locked in, yes. But if Iowa beats Michigan,
Mhm.
do you think that would affect that? Do you think that would any way slip anyone in Michigan out? Any possibility? Like, let's
I'd
just
be
say Florida
surprised.
State wins out, Washington wins out, Georgia wins out. That 4 spot was technically Michigan, but if they lose, so they don't have a title game, and then Texas wins the Big 12 title, like I understand Michigan would get in, but like you're sitting there, you're like, Michigan is gonna make the college football playoffs without a title win.
I think a Michigan win or a Michigan loss and a Texas win still puts Michigan in.
Yeah.
That Ohio State game is a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a really big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
Michigan
and-
Michigan has other good wins too. They've been
Yeah,
running
no.
teams out of the building.
Oh
Like,
yeah, I agree. I'm just they're the best. team in
I
the
see
country
what
right
you're
now.
saying.
Yeah.
It might be Georgia, but
I mean, I think Michigan and Georgia are locked in. The only tough part about Texas making it in is I don't think even if Ohio State is there, they obviously lost to Michigan. I kind of find it hard that they would take Ohio or Texas over Ohio State regardless.
it could go either way.
So let me ask this: is there any opportunity for Ohio State in your guys' eyes? Because
I think
Okay, for
There'd
Ohio
have to be
State
quite
to
a few
win,
losses.
I think it would have to be Washington win,
Washington win, Florida
Georgia
State
win.
lose.
Georgia win,
Georgia win.
Florida State loses,
Yes.
and Texas loses.
you say Washington win?
Yeah.
In there?
I
Okay.
feel like
So
I'm forgetting a
it-
team for some reason.
So if that happens, it's Michigan, Georgia, Washington,
Then Ohio
and
State.
then you have 11 and 1 Ohio State versus 11 and 2 Texas, Ohio State
Yeah.
edge. 11 and 1 Ohio State
Versus
versus 12 and 1 Florida State, Ohio State edge.
Yeah.
I think that's how they get in.
Yeah. I just
Hear
don't-
me out. Doomsday scenario. Okay. Oregon wins.
Yes.
Alabama wins. Texas wins. Florida State wins. Very realistic. So then you have undefeated and Michigan loses.
Yeah.
So you have 12 and 1 Michigan, 11 and 1 Ohio State, 12 and 1 Washington, 12 and 1 Oregon, 12 and 1 Texas, 13 and 0 Florida State.
Florida State would have to be the one in
No.
that case, or they'd have to be in.
Probably.
Florida State would be one. or
But that's
two.
like 7-8 teams.
So
What do you do?
you
That's
have-
kind of what I'm
okay.
rooting for.
You
What
have
do
an 18 playoff.
Yeah, Hypothetically-
Seriously.
At that
This would be the
point.
perfect year for an 18
Dude,
playoff.
Hypothetically, with that scenario, what do you think the 4 is?
If that happens, okay. I
You have to
honestly,
throw Oregon in.
I think Michigan, Oregon, Bama, Georgia, except Florida State.
Yeah. Florida State, and I'm still throwing Ohio State out there.
I think Michigan would have to be 4. I think Oregon would have to be 4. at that
Michigan,
point.
Georgia probably make it. Oregon seems like a lock. But if Bama wins the SEC championship, they've got to be in.
I think
There's not
I
a
think-
spot for
dude,
Florida
low-key
State.
I think
Bama
there.
at
Florida State,
one.
low key, I think Florida State would slide in at 2 in
I
that
see the
scenario.
vision.
Bama at 1 at that point.
Do you think they jump from 8 to 1 though?
Well,
with
there's
this?
no
okay,
way.
why are they so they're so low? Because who they lose to? LSU,
Texas.
Texas. They lost to Texas.
They lost to Texas.
How early in the year? They lost.
It was
crazy
like
early.
week 3 or 4 or
Exactly,
something.
and then they've been blowing teams out since then.
Well,
Pause.
the week after they beat Texas, they were down to the wire with South Florida.
Yeah.
But then they turned it on.
Then they turned it on, and then Auburn was a little sketchy too. But still, if you beat Georgia as the 8 team and the number 8 in the country, I think you got to be number one.
In that scenario, number 1 loss, number 2 loss,
Number 1 loss, 2 loss, 3 loss.
4 loss. Yeah,
Dude, you got to Alabama, Florida State at 2.
I kind of hope that happens. I want to see what they decide.
I don't think they would
It would cause riots.
There's
dude.
no
Oh,
way you put Alabama
dude.
at 1. I don't see any
I
scenario
see a
with
way.
that.
I do.
I don't.
Okay, who would you put?
They're
above
one of the
Alabama?
hottest teams in the country right now, and a win over Georgia in
Yeah.
the SEC championship.
I don't
If you
think
beat
put
the
them
number
there.
1 team in the hardest conference championship in the country,
You won.
you might
because in
be
this
one.
scenario, Michigan loses, so Michigan has to drop.
And then
some
Texas
way.
lost too.
Texas wins.
in this scenario.
Then I think you put Texas on top.
I disagree.
Just because they beat
Bama.
Alabama.
I
earlier.
don't think a week 3 tiebreaker. No,
Yeah,
because
week 3 tiebreakers.
recent
no.
losses matter a lot more than past losses, which is why if Oregon beats UW, they're both 12-1.
Then
I
UW
would
beat
say-
Oregon earlier.
Yeah,
Oregon's
Oregon's
In
in.
that
still in,
scenario,
yeah.
then I think you keep Michigan at 1. Then you put Texas
You
at
don't
2.
keep Michigan at 1 if
Bama
they
at
lose to
3.
Iowa,
Yeah.
I don't know. I
I
think
was,
which they probably
yeah.
won't. This is probably a moot point. Like they're not.
It's a fun thing to talk about, though.
It is.
It's a fun thing to think about.
If Michigan loses to Iowa, they drop. Absolutely.
Yeah.
it's
You
just-
don't put 12-1 conference champion loser Michigan above 12-1 SEC winner Bama.
Exactly.
You don't.
I mean,
Exactly.
okay, maybe in that scenario you put Alabama 1 then. I think you'd have to still put Texas in there if they won.
If they
Michigan
win,
would stay in
you'd-
there, I
I-
think,
I
and
don't
Georgia.
know.
What about that? It would be
You would
Alabama
have to put Texas. Florida State has to be in there because Florida State's undefeated.
and UW lost too.
UW lost, so it'd
Yeah.
have to be Alabama. Florida State has to be there. They're undefeated, and the top guys lost. Florida State has to be in there, unfortunately. I think Oregon has to be in there. I think the winner of the Pac-12 championship, no matter what, should be in
I
there.
agree.
And then that 4th spot is stuck between Michigan, Georgia, and Texas. Dude, that is crazy. You can't give it to Texas in that situation. It has to be probably.
That's wild.
Who would it be?
Plus, Florida State-
Georgia. It's
Yeah, I
got to
don't-
be Georgia.
Yeah, it would have to be. I think so.
disagree. I think it's got to be Michigan.
They
Michigan
lost to Iowa. Like they
Yes,
would lose to
they
Iowa.
did.
in this
Losing
game.
to Bama is better than losing
to Iowa. Yeah, I agree. I think that would be it.
Dude, I
Okay,
but
this is a scenario we should all root for because it would be
would be
hilarious.
yes,
wild.
This would be awesome.
There's no way.
Sports and stuff called it.
All right. Beyond the playoff, though, the Heisman race is coming to a close, and I think it's down to 3. Realistically, I mean,
Yeah.
shout out Ollie Gordon at Oklahoma State, but it's down to 3, and those are Bo Nix, who's the betting favorite right now, Jaden Daniels, and Michael Penix. I'll give my opinion. Michael Penix shouldn't be in contention. He's had too many stinkers.
I agree.
He just has. And you can't have that many mid or bad games if you want to be the Heisman. You just can't. Bo Nix, dude's completed like 80% of his passes. He doesn't turn the ball over. He's been great. Jaden Daniels, his record is working against him a little bit, but he was still great in the losses. And his worst game of the year, he had like 330 and 4 touchdowns. His numbers this year, I'm not saying he's better than Joe Burrow's year. I'm not saying that. But they are comparable to Joe Burrow's Heisman year. He is, for me, it's Jaden Daniels, and it's not close. Bo Nix works perfectly I'm not calling Bo Nix a system quarterback necessarily, but he operates the system perfectly, and he wins games with it. Jaden Daniels is the system. Jaden Daniels is everything for that LSU team, and I know he has talent around him. He has no defense. He creates everything with his arm and his legs. That's my Heisman. I don't think it's close either.
I just wanted Ollie Gordon, if I'm gonna be fair. I mean, he got. I'm blanking on the game he got shut out on, but
I mean, Jaden Daniels has the best numbers of these 3 with the hardest schedule by a mile. Like
Yeah,
it's
I just-
number 7 strength of schedule in the country. Penix and Bo Nix are both outside the top 40.
I just love Bo Nix. honestly.
I
He's
think-
great,
I mean,
and he
Penix
should
is
be
cool,
number
too.
2.
I don't know. I actually kind of like all these guys except Penix. I don't really like Penix.
I don't
but
like Penix either.
Too many
I like.
stinkers.
I'm more like.
I didn't like
I'm,
Penix at the beginning of the year either.
I'm a very well, yeah, it's because he beat.
He's
Boise
had an
State.
incredible year.
It's 'cause
No,
they
but
beat
even
Boise
no,
State.
even at
Don't
that
get me.
game.
He's had an incredible
Yeah.
year. Just he can't be above either
Yeah,
of these.
I agree.
If I this might be a weird take, but this is how I see it. Michael Penix Jr., I think of these, he has some atrocious throws in all of his games. He has some that you're like, how is that even a college quarterback throw?
He
Against-
also makes the most accurate throws of any of these guys.
I'm
I
gonna be
th-
honest. Watching the
He makes the
Apple-
most NFL throws of any of these guys.
Watching the Washington State game, Penix.
Oh, he
almost
looked
turned
terrible.
Penix almost turned the ball over like 3 times on that final.
And they
drive.
got bailed out on
They
that
got
last drive.
bailed out. So
That was not roughing the passer.
like, dude, that game was hard watch.
And that's why Oregon opens up as 10-point favorites against Washington
Exactly.
at Washington.
Exactly. That's crazy.
But
That's crazy. Undefeated Washington going to
yeah,
their home.
we still
and
got
an
we
underdog.
gotta talk about these games and give some predictions. So I have Jaden Daniels. Who do you guys have?
I have Bo Nix. I mean, I think the Jaden Daniels comparison to Joe Burrow. I mean,
See, you keep
numbers
going
are
back
similar.
to that. That
I know.
doesn't matter.
I know, but I think that's what people are trying to like. That's what I hear is the biggest argument is his numbers are similar to Joe Burrow. But I just think, I mean, I think Bo Nix has done some crazy things with Oregon. I mean,
What would you describe
He's-
Jaden Daniels as? Is that not crazy?
I
things?
think I don't know. I just think that the comparison to Joe Burrow isn't as great of an argument because there's so many different things outside of just the numbers
Okay, no,
that
that's
make it
fair.
different.
How about the argument where he has better numbers against better teams?
I don't know. I just think that with Bo Nix at Oregon, I mean, Oregon, we thought they were going to be a weaker team this year, and Bo Nix is like
No one thought they were going to be
driven-
weak.
I thought there's quite a few people that thought they weren't going to be number 3. Like,
Well,
I don't think.
Yeah, but that's
mean-
not necessarily a weaker team.
I think that
Let me
some
just-
people thought they were going to drop down.
Let me just read something to you
Okay.
real quick. So, I have this chart that compares Nix, Penix, and Daniels.
Fancy.
Daniels is second by less than 100 yards in passing yards, first by over 1,000 in rushing yards, first by about 1,000 in total yards, most passing touchdowns, most rushing touchdowns, 50 total touchdowns, and the second least turnovers of them. 7th strength of schedule in the entire country. Let's see, highest completion percentage on throws of 20 plus yards, most explosive plays, most points responsible for, most first downs passing and rushing, most missed tackles forced, highest big time throw percentage, highest touchdown and first down percentage. Jaden Daniels is averaging over 10 yards per play this season when the ball is
That's
in his
crazy.
hands. On throws and runs, including incompletions, including kneel downs, Jaden Daniels is averaging over 10 yards per play against the 7th hardest schedule in the country. I just don't think there's an argument for anyone else.
I think Jaden Daniels, I mean, I will give it to you. Jaden Daniels is the much better player of the 3, I think, in my personal opinion. I just think Bo Nix, with the Heisman, has a better story just by the fact that Oregon has, in my opinion, been a surprise favorite for the top 4 in the country for the playoffs.
I mean, them being in playoff contention really
I
is the
think-
main thing for him.
I think that's the biggest thing. Plus, he's had some, minor storylines like most touchdowns in a half
well,
by
everyone
an
thought
Oregon
he
player.
stunk after he left Oregon.
Yeah, like I think, or after he left Auburn, you
Right,
think?
yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing is he has the biggest argument with it where he, he's had those minor stories like, oh, he has the most passing touchdowns in Oregon history and a half.
I get it.
He,
No, I get
is
it.
playing.
He does have an argument. I just think with the numbers, the strength of schedule, and
Yeah, I think
in
he's
ter-
like
in
Jaden Daniels.
terms
I
of
think is the better player.
elevating your team, I think it has to be Daniels. But anyway, I have Daniels. You have Nix. Who do you have?
I think Daniels deserves it. I think Nix is gonna win it
That's a very fair take.
because
That's probably the most realistic take.
especially if Nix wins the Pac-12 championship and takes
Yeah,
him to the playoffs.
I just don't
and
see
as
it.
as you're saying it that. It's hard not to give it to Nix, unfortunately. Even though Jaden Daniels had a heck of a year, again,
I'm on board with that.
I think that's how
Daniels
I see it.
should. Nix will.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's what's gonna end up
That's not a
happening.
bad take at all. I could totally see that. But moving on, I mean, there's a few key games this weekend that we should keep our eye on, and we've talked about them a little bit, but we're going to give our picks now. We're going to put ourselves on the spot. The first one we have listed here is Oregon versus Washington. Oregon opens up as 10-point road favorites against a team they lost to earlier in the year. As we said, this is likely for a playoff spot, and UW won the previous meeting. I believe it was 36-33 off a missed last-second field goal by Oregon. I got Oregon. And I got Oregon covering 10, too.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
I think Oregon is going to make a statement. I think they win by 14.
Hey, bleep that out, by the way.
Damn.
I was kidding. That was a joke.
I mean, I agree with you. I have Oregon. This spread is very scary for me. I don't think I think it's going to be a close game again. It's the Pac-12 championship. Plus, it was close last time. It should have gone into overtime if Oregon's kicker wasn't horrible, which I also want to point out on the topic of kickers, there was a storyline that Grady Gross, the kicker for Washington, got a scholarship after the game-winning kick. And I was like,
He's not even that good.
my thing was they made it a big storyline that he made the kick and then he got the scholarship. So I was like, what if he missed that? Would they have just been like, never mind, you're not getting your scholarship?
They probably would have waited.
Yeah, be like, you're not getting it. Screw it.
Am I tripping, or didn't he miss like 2 or 3 kicks that
I
game?
think he did.
And then he
Yeah,
made the
at
game-winning
least
one,
one.
and then he got
At
the
least
scholarship.
He missed I think 2 in that game, and then he made the one that mattered. So not gonna discredit that at all. Like, good for you, Grady Gross. I wish I was in that position, but I don't know. I
Respect.
kind of saw that and I was like, really?
Yeah,
Like,
that's
like,
exactly.
good for him.
But all right, so you have Oregon.
Yeah, I have Oregon.
But a close win.
Close win.
I'm gonna take Oregon as well. I think it's also gonna be a close game, but I think people are discrediting Washington a bit too much. Yes, Washington doesn't look good. I still think they're a good team. If Washington wins,
Oh, they're a great team.
If Washington wins,
just
it
think
would be
Oregon's
a
better.
thing. I'm gonna go with Oregon in this. As much as I want to say Washington, just to like disagree with you guys, I have to go with Oregon on this one. And then we'll do a nice little loop. Next one we got Georgia versus Bama, and I'm going with Bama. I think Bama is gonna. Ooh, I'm excited about this one. I think Bama is going to kick Georgia's butt.
There's no way it's.
I
think
forgot to put it
Bama-
in here, but Georgia is currently 5.5-point favorites.
I think Bama is going to kick Georgia's butt in this game. I'm excited for
I
it.
couldn't agree any less. Like, I think Georgia's gonna like. I don't know why. I mean, Alabama, the history, plus they're hot right now. But I just don't see any scenario where Alabama wins. Like, I'm sorry, but I think Georgia's going to beat them.
Okay, I'm a little in the middle. I do see a scenario where Alabama wins, but I don't think they will. I got Georgia by 1 to 2 possessions, 7 to 10 range, but I think Georgia wins.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I will say these might be right at this second the 2 best teams in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Alabama?
Maybe.
Oh.
They have an argument.
No, he's talking Oklahoma State, Texas.
Oklahoma State, Texas. Oh, yeah.
No.
I was kidding.
But moving on, we do have Oklahoma State and Texas next. Texas is 15-point favorites. I put it in here as a key game because Texas needs a big win to keep playoff hope. I'm going Texas.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I am I don't know why. I always have a sweet spot for Oklahoma State. But for the sake of I wanted Texas in the playoffs because that was my prediction, I'm going to have to go Texas just because, I mean.
Don't you
I kind of
dare.
want to disagree with you guys. I kind of do. Because I love
You Ollie Gordon
I
lover.
love Ollie Gordon. I love Ollie Gordon. I said that to you guys. It was either on air or off air that Ollie Gordon for Heisman, and then
You said it a while ago.
I said that a while
did.
ago, and I've been
He's
sticking.
he's probably top
He's probably
6, 7.
Yeah, top 7. I love Ollie Gordon. So just for the sake of the fun of it, if I was
Why
doing
not?
actual betting, I would probably take Texas. But for the sake of it, I'm taking Oklahoma State in this. Ollie Gordon, big game. That's gonna be my prediction. And then that last one, Louisville, Florida
This
State.
is the game with the closest spread, by the way. Florida State opens up as 2.5-point favorites.
I don't think they keep it up.
I was disappointed in Louisville last week. I'm kind of blanking on who they lost.
Kentucky
Kentucky. They lost to Kentucky.
for the
I was-
third time in a row.
You're right.
I
was
believe.
disappointed in that because I was excited for this Louisville Florida State game. I was really excited, and then now Louisville comes in with a loss, and I'm kind of burned out about it, if I'm being completely honest. And because I was gonna take Louisville, but now I have to be boring and take Florida State in it. So I'm gonna go Florida State.
I'm picking Louisville. I don't think they're keeping it up. I mean, the team's good team's good, but I just don't think they really can keep it up without Jordan Travis. So
I'm going to have to agree. I'm taking Louisville. I think Florida State, if Florida wasn't the most undisciplined team in the country, they lost last week. And I think
and
Louisville.
they're also 5-6 at that point.
Right. I think Louisville, after a loss, is going to. I think they're going to be able to bounce back. And as far as I know, they've never won an ACC championship. And I think this is the year they get it. This is their best opportunity. So
I agree.
I'm going to go Louisville and knock Florida State out of the playoff, as they should be.
And with that, let's make the transition to NFL. The biggest headline here so far that I've heard was the Panthers owner, or just the whole Panthers organization. So they fired Frank Reich.
Dable.
Brian DeBoll, Frank Reich, and then they fired Josh McCown,
Yeah.
their quarterback coach, which that caused a ton of issues because, I mean, obviously Frank Reich, he got fired by the Colts last year. So he's the first head coach in NFL history to get fired back-to-back seasons.
Don't let them come back for a third stint.
Oh, God. But let's...
Anyway, this is I mean this isn't really much of news. I think we all knew he was going to get fired.
Yeah.
Here's the two things I want to talk about with this. Why did he keep the offensive coordinator? The guy, I may add, who threw a screenplay on 4th and 6 with the game on the line last week that got tackled for a loss, who's been bad all year. And second, what do we think Stroud would be doing in the situation that Bryce Young is in?
Not much.
I do think that Stroud is better. I do. But I think if you swapped them places, it'd be a lot more even. I think that Stroud in the Panthers situation, I don't think he wouldn't be what he is right now. I'll just say that. I think D'Amico Ryans is a great coach. I miss him so bad. I think that they have, for the team that they have really good weapons around him, significantly better protection than Bryce Young has, just better coaching, better everything. So I'm not ready to be out on Bryce yet. I hope no one is. I mean, he's a rookie in a bad situation. I could totally see him taking the Trevor Lawrence path right now.
Mhm.
And I think people just need to be patient with Bryce Young, is what I'm saying, basically, because there's not a lot of quarterbacks who would be good in this situation right now.
I totally agree. I think one thing that also, and this is kind of coming out, so the Panthers owner, he ended up saying a long story about how basically the team was about to take C.J. Stroud.
Well, they were going to trade up to 2 for him.
Yeah, because they thought the Texans were going to pick.
And then, like, the front office generally agreed that Bryce Young was better, so they traded up to 1.
So they ended up getting
Except
Bryce
Josh
Young.
McCown. Josh McCown is on record wanting Stroud.
Yeah, and that's one thing that is an issue as well, where you can't put that against Bryce Young, where the quarterback coach didn't want you. And that, regardless of, it's a coach's job to work with what you have, but it's also tougher.
And I'm sure
if he didn't
did.
get buy-in.
I'm sure he put it aside and worked with him.
Yeah, but it's also just like that. It's tough.
Yeah.
And I think I totally agree with your Trevor Lawrence take. I think it's going to take him a year to get better.
Maybe 2.
I think
They got a long way to go, and they don't have their first
plus
this
they don't
year.
have a coach. I mean, right now,
They don't have, and that's not an
and that's a
attractive
big
job.
thing.
That's not an attractive job. Like, the best candidates are going to be, because I think there's going to be a lot more coaches fired.
Mhm.
I think the best candidates are going to be looking at other places.
And I think as well, I think one of the saving graces for Trevor Lawrence is Doug Peterson.
Yeah.
In that position, I think he's a really good coach.
You
He already
remember
proved
how
that.
high I was on that hire when it happened?
Yeah, and I wasn't. I mean, I
love Doug Peterson, man. I love him.
He was good in the Eagles.
Yeah.
Well,
I
the
like
only
him.
tough
was.
part that I was
like him.
afraid of is, I obviously knew he was going to be good. I was just afraid of team buy-in, because if they heard that he was
You didn't know.
tanking,
You said he was going to be bad.
no, I thought the
Well, he said it was a bad hire.
I thought the team was gonna not be as bought in because they heard of the stories about how he was intentionally tanking. That's what I was afraid of.
Yeah.
But with that, it's gonna be really dependent on who they hire, in my opinion, on Bryce Young's future. But right now, I think
I think the prime
it's tough.
candidate is Ben Johnson, the Lions' offensive coordinator.
and I don't think that's gonna be a good hire.
If you're really,
I don't think
he's
so.
good. He's been great in his role. If
Matt-
you're Ben Johnson, which job is more attractive? Obviously, you want to be a head coach, but you're the OC for a really good team right now in a really good position. I don't know, but
yeah, I mean,
there's gonna be more coaches fired. You'd have to imagine Staley's out.
Mhm.
Ben Johnson could be a candidate for that.
Plus, you hear Chargers versus Panthers. You're gonna take
Right.
Chargers.
You're gonna go with
That's
the
probably
one
the
who
most
has,
desirable
You're gonna
job.
go with the one that has Justin Herbert. You
Yeah,
just
like,
are.
it's
but-
gonna be tough.
I don't know. I mean, there'll probably be other coaches fired too. We'll see. Adam Schefter went on a show the other day and said, if the over-under was at 7 coaches being fired this year, I'd take the over, which is crazy, but kind of makes sense. So we will see. And on that topic, Brandon Staley still has a job.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't
Chargers
know how.
still stink.
Okay, I just don't understand how Frank Reich lasted longer than Brandon Staley.
He didn't.
Or no, he didn't last longer than Brandon Staley. I thought Brandon Staley was
Well,
going to get fired before him.
Both are trash.
There were talks about him getting fired last year, and we keep on talking about this.
See, okay, I was right and you were wrong about Doug Peterson. You were right and I was wrong about Brandon Staley.
Yeah.
I believed in him even after some of the stuff last year. I was wrong.
Yeah,
He's terrible.
I thought he should have been fired last year after the embarrassing, atrocious loss to the Jaguars, and even before that,
That
the
was-
atrocious loss to
to
the
the
interim
Raiders.
head coach of the Raiders.
Yeah. Hey,
what in the world?
shout out Rich Bisaccia though.
Bro, like, oh my
Where's he at now?
goodness.
He's special teams coordinator for the Packers.
Which, I mean, they've been all right with him there. So, but
Yeah,
it's-
Brandon Staley's got to go. I think he's got to be the next one to go.
Yeah.
he's
But
so
after
bad.
the Broncos games. After
whatever.
after the Broncos games, Broncos play him twice. I'd like him
Oh,
to stay.
We can
man.
skip around a little bit here. Speaking of the Broncos,
Broncos country is indeed writing.
they're the
We're
hottest. They're the hottest team in the league
NFL right now.
with
We're
the Eagles.
tied at the Eagles with a best win streak right now, 5 in a row, and I'm pumped.
I would be too.
I haven't seen my
Yeah.
team.
Hey, Vance Joseph.
Okay, I just saw something on Vance Joseph. So after the Dolphins game, I think I talked to you about this. I was like, the reason the Broncos are bad are purely because of Vance Joseph, not Sean Payton's fault. Purely because of Vance Joseph. I hated Vance
And
Joseph.
he
was
turned
our
it around.
Head coach years ago. I hated Joseph. And then seeing 70 points, I was like, that's crazy. How is he still have a job? All that. But these last, I think it was since that 70-point game, I've been averaging 20 points allowed per game. No, that's wrong. That's wrong. The last 5 games on this 5-game win streak, we've been allowing 16 points per game, which is the best in the NFL. And
Is it?
yeah, best in the NFL for points per game the last 5 weeks. Most turnovers.
Because we've been the best the last 4 weeks. So I guess that 5th week really screwed us.
yeah, I guess.
Who'd you play? Who'd you just play?
Who'd we just
Or,
play?
I mean, who'd you play 5
Seattle.
weeks
We
ago?
only
5
gave
weeks
up
ago.
6 points
I
on
meant
offense.
5 weeks ago. I'm going based off a graphic I saw on CBS.
So am I.
Sports.
So am I.
So, we're,
Yeah.
whatever. But most.
Hey, we both wanted our defensive coordinators fired, and we both turned it around. We're both elite defenses.
The Broncos have been getting the most turnovers in the NFL in the last 5 weeks. Best turnover
Tons.
differential purely because the offense as well and the defense forcing. I mean, you watch Broncos games and they just force turnovers so often.
And that's the biggest thing is the offense isn't necessarily clicking on all cylinders.
Yeah.
But they're taking care of it at a level they have not even come close to.
Russell Wilson only has 4 interceptions.
In the Russell Wilson era.
Russell Wilson has 4 interceptions all
He's
year.
playing great.
Yeah.
He's playing great.
I'm not used to seeing.
I don't think you can defend the trade yet, but it's looking a whole lot better this year than it did last
I
year.
mean, we might make the playoffs.
Yeah.
I haven't said
I could
that
see
since
it.
2015.
I could see it.
I hate to burst your bubble, but
Uh-oh.
I think
Uh-oh.
I think the Broncos, their defense is still. I think right now they're riding the hot streak. I would be very concerned going forward, especially in the playoffs, with their defense.
So we are playing the Texans next week.
I'm so excited for that game.
I'm pumped.
That at the end of the year, that could be a game that decides a wild card spot.
Exactly.
I think so, too.
That's a huge game. Both teams the Texans are sitting at the 8 seed at 6-5. Broncos are sitting at the 9 seed at 6-5. Colts are 7
Texans are 3.5 point favorites at home.
Dude, this game's gonna be nuts because I mean we look at this game and they're 2 of the hot. I know the Texans are coming off a loss, but 2 of the hottest teams in the NFL. We have C.J. Stroud, who's looking, and again, on my opinion, I think you guys disagreed, or I don't know who I was talking about. Someone disagreed with it. I think C.J. Stroud is the best quarterback, and playing like the best quarterback in the NFL right now, in my opinion. I
don't know if I'm quite there, but he's in the conversation.
I would agree
with my opinion, he's the best quarterback in the NFL against the hottest defense in the NFL. I think this is going to be either. I'm excited.
Second hottest defense.
49ers first. So yeah.
Look what we've done the last 3 games, man.
Okay. Also, that kind of reminds me of the Patriots defense allowing 10 points or less in the last 2 games and still losing.
Yeah.
Both of them.
The
Okay.
the Patriots aren't worthy of airtime.
Yeah.
Move on.
my gosh.
But yeah, I mean, on the topic of that Broncos-Texans game, that's one of the biggest games this week.
Yeah.
I would say another one is Dallas-Seattle on Thursday
That's
night.
a big one. There's one
'Cause
more too.
Seattle's sitting at 6-5 right now. After the Commanders game, they were 6-4 in a playoff spot. 6-4 is a good spot, and they were a win away on Thanksgiving from being first in the division. Now they are 6-5 with Cowboys, Niners, Eagles as their next 3 games. If they, this is deciding their season in the next 3 weeks. So this is a big game. Obviously, the Cowboys need a win. The Cowboys, as crazy as it is, they're not out of the division race yet.
Yeah. They just need some. They have
The Cowboys can take the lead in the division the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
If the Niners beat the Eagles, which is realistic, Dallas beats Seattle, and then Dallas beats Philly at home, they're first in the division,
Yeah.
first in the
Yeah.
conference. Or second in the conference.
They would definitely have to beat Philly.
Oh, that's the
second
only
time.
prayer.
That's
because
the only way.
Philly has the Niners this week, and then Cowboys, Seahawks. After that, it's cupcake. They get the Giants twice and Cardinals. So they're ending the year with 3 wins. Philly needs to lose 2 of the next 3 for Dallas or San Francisco to have a shot at the 1. So
I just don't. I mean,
Don't the
if
Eagles?
Philly takes 2 of these games, the 1 seed's done.
I'm not talking about the Niners Eagles game. I'm talking about the. I just don't see the Cowboys beating the Eagles because
Yeah, me neither.
They were
look,
close last time.
Cowboys are notorious for this. You can't help your schedule. You can't. That's also looping back to the college football. You can't help who you play. The Cowboys have not beat a team this year above 500.
And I get that. I get it. But the only 2 above 500 that they've played might be the 2 best teams in the NFL.
Eagles and
Niners.
Oh, I didn't know. Oh, the Niners. Yeah.
Because they lost to the Eagles by 1 possession, and they
then the
lost to us
Niners
by like
just-
30.
Yeah.
Those are the only 2 teams they've played with a winning record. Though, it's not like they're out here playing, with all due respect, the Broncos and Texans,
Yeah.
who are just above 500.
Yeah.
The 2 teams they've played that are above 500 are
I get that.
arguably
Well-
the 2 best in the league.
Yes.
Arguably.
Yes, but the Cowboys
So
have been
it's-
killing teams.
This is why the Seattle game is big for me, too, because Seattle's above 500.
Uh-huh.
And Dallas has a chance to prove, like, we can still stomp a decent team.
So with that game, I'm rooting for the Cowboys actually for other reasons because I kind of want to see Rams and Packers find a way in the playoffs. 'Cause that'd be kind of funny.
I'm
But-
rooting for the Cowboys because I want them to know they have a shot at winning the division when they play the Eagles.
But I just I don't
And I hate
know.
Seattle.
I mean, it's just the Cowboys are so no one really knows who they are yet because they haven't played hard teams. They play the Seahawks.
I think we know they're a very good team.
we know they're a very good
We
team.
don't know that
If they're
they
a
are
top
a
team.
like a
Super Bowl
like
team.
that top. In my opinion, the top tier right now is Eagles, Niners, Ravens.
Yes.
I think those are the only 3 that belong in the top tier
Yes.
right now. And the Cowboys are just below that, probably with
With the Lions, Jaguars. You don't like the Lions and Jaguars, I know, but Lions,
No,
Jaguars.
I like them. I think Dallas is a better team. And I do believe Dallas plays Detroit this year. I could be wrong. I don't know. I guess, yeah, they probably are all in the same tier, but I'd put Dallas first in the tier. And maybe the Chiefs are in there.
Oh, Chiefs are in there, yeah. Chiefs, they've been looking sketchy, but
Yeah.
they look sketchy every year. And they're in the
Big game
playoffs, they
coming
turn
up
on.
for them, too, against the Packers. I mean,
That-
the
that
Packers
game's
are trying to
huge.
make a playoff push. They've looked better lately. Chiefs have looked worse. I do think the Chiefs win, but it's going to be a good one to
So
look
do,
at.
do you want to hear something crazy that I think has a very high possibility of happening? I think that the Vikings are going to fall out. I think that the
can see it.
Seahawks are going to fall out.
Probably.
Rams and Packers hop in. Rams right now are
I don't
sitting
hate
at
it.
5
I
and
don't
6.
hate it, but it's an uphill battle for the Rams.
Yeah, they're playing a beat up Browns team this week.
I will say, when we did the show last week, I picked the Packers to the playoffs, so I see the vision
Yes.
there. And I just went through all the schedules yesterday. I see the vision for the Rams.
Yes.
I see it. They still, they have a lot of big games left.
Yeah.
It's just health, health. I think at this point. I mean,
Well,
I think for the
health,
Rams, it's
health,
health.
and they need help. They need other teams to lose.
Yeah.
Rams?
Yes.
Yeah, I
they're
think so
not.
too.
They're not going to win out.
I think they have a genuine. I was looking at it the
They
other
still
day.
have the Niners again.
They have the
Ravens.
They have the Niners again, yes, but
They have the
they are
Ravens. I
Rams are
believe they have the Cowboys.
Rams are notorious for putting a show on for the Niners.
What are you talking about?
For getting a win against the Niners, the Rams.
in
I
the
believe
playoffs,
our
49ers.
I believe our
season?
regular season win streak against the Rams is at 9.
Actually,
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, in season the
Who am I thinking
49ers
about?
own the Rams, but in the playoffs, the Rams have beaten the 49ers.
One time, yes.
Yeah.
They got the one that mattered the most, but we've beat them like 9 times in a row.
fair point. I still think the Rams.
The Rams are notorious for putting on a show against the Seahawks.
Yeah.
That's probably what I'm thinking.
And the Seahawks were notorious for beating us, but we're 4-0 against them without Russell
yeah,
Wilson.
and then
so
the Cardinals are just sitting there.
Cardinals
Yeah,
kind of
Cardinals
just
are
sit
just there.
Kinda-
Cardinals are notorious for taking one win against the best team in the division every year.
Mhm.
They just randomly win a game against one of the best teams every year. It's stupid. Not this year yet, though. But they did beat Dallas.
I forgot they beat Dallas. Oh my
It's
god,
crazy. They beat them pretty comfortably too.
Was that the Josh Dobbs legacy game I was talking
It
about?
might have been, yeah. Which, by the way, I know you don't want to hear this. Josh Dobbs for the Vikings is kind of doing what he did for the Cardinals. Have a few good games, and then here we go.
That was the
He
ugliest
almost
game.
lost my fantasy league. He had negative points.
4 picks, man.
I just needed to put 0 points up, and I would win. And he was at negative for 95% of the game.
Yeah,
I just
Oh my
don't
goodness.
understand.
and lost to the Bears.
Yeah, how do you only put up 10 to the Bears? That's
Yeah.
a crazy thing.
It's a
It was a
rivalry
good
game.
run, and I don't think he's going to do that every week, obviously. But
And Justin Jefferson's coming back now.
but like people were really talking about Dobbs over Kirk Cousins, and I am
Yeah, that's no
I'm
way.
so glad.
Kirk Cousins.
That's-
I'm
is
so
still,
glad that dialogue is done.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins' stats right now are still up there.
Yeah, we were talking about
know.
that the other day.
I know.
Like,
he was
his
on an
stats are still up
MVP
there.
season before he got injured.
Oh, dude, Kirk Cousins.
Kirk
killed
Cousins
it.
consistently one of the most underrated
at lea-
quarterbacks in the league, I think.
I'm glad we agreed on that.
But
Um,
all right, let's make some picks on the big games this week. Seahawks Cowboys. I got Cowboys,
Cowboys.
but I think it's a good game to watch.
I think well,
I think Seahawks are frauds.
I think both teams like have. I think Seahawks are
Also-
frauds. I think Cowboys haven't played a good team. I think the Cowboys are going to win. So
Can we
Okay.
also,
I don't
well,
want this
can we
Next
also talk
one.
about Deron Bland having the most pick sixes in a season?
that is a
Insane.
mess.
That's ridiculous.
He has more
He get another one
touchdowns.
here.
He has more touchdowns
Yeah.
than a lot of really good offensive players.
Yeah.
Next game I want to bring up, Rams Browns.
I have Rams in that one.
I do too.
I mean, if they didn't have
Sorry,
quarterback
Missy.
issues
You're gonna
for the
line-
Browns,
well, they do.
I think Rams.
They
I know.
do.
If they didn't, I would pick Browns.
You're gonna
I'm
line up
taking Rams
DTR
now.
across from Aaron Donald.
Yeah, and the Rams
Yeah.
are getting healthier.
Good luck.
Like
Yeah.
everyone's back in the Rams. Their
Well, plus I
offense
think
is
it's PJ
finally-
Walker now.
Like okay,
Either way.
let's put this
Yeah.
in perspective. The Rams, Sean McVay, probably one of the best coaches in the league, offensive minds in the league. All their people are now healthy. Stafford's playing well. Cooper Kupp is back. Kyron Williams is back. Like now we
Kyron,
have
man.
Puka. Now we have Puka.
Kyron Williams.
Dude, the
Demon.
Rams' offense is legit. Their offense is
It can
legit.
be. It can be if it clicks.
Yeah.
Their offense
So-
is legit.
I agree.
Yes, they just.
So are
played
we
the
all going
Cardinals.
Rams?
Yeah.
All right. Next big one, Broncos Texans.
You already know who I'm picking.
Texans.
I know who you're picking. This is a tough one for me. This is a coin flip.
I think Texans are gonna. I think Texans are.
I think the
actually a legit
Texans
team.
get them.
I think so too.
All I gotta say is this:
It's going to be so close. I won't be surprised either way. I think the Texans get them though.
Mr. Unlimited is dropping a solid 205 passing yards, 1 touchdown.
That
Solid.
sounds like a losing
He's
stat
gonna
line.
drop a straight danger
Dude,
witch on the
no,
field.
No, trust me, that sounds like a losing stat line. Look at the stat lines. Of
No,
Russell
I know.
Wilson in the
Oh,
past
I
10
know.
years.
Danger witch.
I know.
The danger witch.
I just don't think that can keep up with
Everyone has
Stroud.
an alter
Yeah,
ego.
I think so.
Mr. Unlimited.
All right, and last
God.
one. Last one, Niners Eagles. It's at Philly. Niners opened up as slight favorites.
I'm surprised the Niners are favored in that.
I'm not. I'm really not. The Eagles have been I understand wins are wins and getting tough wins matters, but they've been scraping by.
You know, for this one,
Scraping by.
it makes sense
They
for
it took quite a bit of help to beat the Bills.
it makes sense for the Eagle or for the 49ers to win this one. But I'm
Did you
afraid
watch?
that
Yes.
people are
Then what are you talking
undervaluing
about?
the Eagles so much right now that the Eagles are going to win just by the fact that everyone's thinking the 49ers are going to win. Just
not-
by that
that-
fact.
I'm not undervaluing
Most people think
anything.
the Eagles are going to
Yeah,
win.
I'm
No,
not
I
undervaluing
mean,
anything.
49ers are picked. Everyone sees a vision that the Eagles is the prime time for them to lose because they're not going to go one loss the whole season. I think
If
that's.
they win this game, they probably will.
I think they're going to drop one eventually. I mean, they dropped one against the Jets, but
Yeah,
I think
so. They did drop one.
and I think that people are seeing that this is a prime one for them to lose. So I think that they're going to win because everyone is expecting them to lose. I think.
completely disagree that everyone's expecting them to lose. I couldn't disagree more.
Really?
But I mean,
People are calling 49ers. I saw something where someone was calling the 49ers the best team in the league.
we are.
And that the Eagles are just going to lose because the 49ers are the best team in the league. And that's a general thing. I think most
it's
people are saying
definitely
that.
not a general thing, but that's what I think. Niners had a really bad 3-game stretch. When you have a bad offensive line and you lose the best offensive lineman in the league, on top of that, yeah, losing streak, it makes a little bit of sense. Niners are as healthy as they've been all year, even though Hafong is out for the year. The secondary depth is not looking great. Eagles are, as far as I know, healthy too, assuming Lane Johnson plays. It's a coin flip, so I have to go with my team. I'm going Niners. I think we get it back. Tons of injuries in the last time they played. Eagles ran away with it. It wasn't even close. I think the Niners get them back, and then the Eagles play with the 1 seed on the line in Dallas next week. I am so excited for this game. In my opinion, these are the 2 best teams in the league, with the Ravens very, very closely behind. So this is the most excited I've been for a regular season game in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Niners. Don't get me wrong. I think they're a top team in the league. They have a very strong roster. Their roster's ridiculous, but come on, if you watch the Eagles, they're so good.
I agree.
Keep it real.
I just think it's that way about both teams.
You're right. You're right.
And I think the Eagles are due to drop one of these close games.
I think the Eagles. The one thing I have noticed, and this is gonna seem weird, but the one way the Niners could win is if Jalen Hurts.
I wouldn't say one way, but
okay, Jalen Hurts. What I've noticed is when the Eagles are losing, and yes, this is a good trait, but he's too calm. I feel like, and I feel like that's an issue. He doesn't take. He doesn't. How do I word it? It was against the Bills when they were losing. He's just sitting on the sideline
I think that's a good thing.
And yeah, you think that's a good thing. And then when on the field, I feel like he's just not he's kind of he's too loose, which again is also a good thing. But at the end of the day, you're not breaking away those big plays. He's not really doing it. He's doing all the little things. Which now that I'm explaining, it sounds like I'm just saying good things.
You kind of are.
I don't know how to explain it. But
So you're taking
I'm taking Eagles.
Eagles?
I'm taking
Okay.
Eagles.
I think that's valid.
I'm taking Eagles, but
49ers, Eagles. Yeah, I think that's all the time we have for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening.
Wisconsin has the ball, by the way, and king of the court.
Yep. Thank you for listening. Make sure to tune in to our next episode and all the clips on all of our social medias. And thank you, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.